He's already got the recording going. Nice job.
Yes, sir. I'm ahead of the game. Already got my Audacity rolling.
Yeah,
Nice.
Making sure we don't leave any of these
again.
crumbs on the ground.
Precious morsels.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines
Hey there.
and Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games. I feel like I almost introduced us in the wrong order there. I feel like you guys are in the opposite order on my screen here, so
You can,
a little bit
you can introduce
thrown
us
off
in
the
any
game.
order. There is no.
I guess
we're not
that's true.
beholden to
Set.
format here.
That's true. But it just rolls off the tongue at this point. It just feels
It absolutely
natural.
does.
But nonetheless, well, I introduced John first. We're going to kick it over to John first here for for the video game. We'll get a little Monster Hunter update from John here.
Yeah. So I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate recently. I've been bouncing around between all of them. Like each one scratches a different itch now at this point. Like I've been playing a lot of Rise when I really want that hyper mobile and like fast paced thing. I like World because it has a really nice like world. Like it's really good level design in that, and it feels nice, and it's good multiplayer. And like Generations Ultimate was kind of the one that was really getting me to like delve deep into systems and like get more like used to the game without any of the quality of life stuff that was added in World and Rise, and like kind of moving backwards and complicating a formula that I kind of got a little bit of a handle on. And then I started Monster Hunter Frontier, and that was even further back and even more like inscrutable and difficult. And like learning is like, oh God, I don't even have like a large enough inventory to hold like the items from the, like there's just so much more like inventory management and resource management that you have to deal with. And that was part of the reason why when I went back to Generations Ultimate that I didn't want to go back to what my original main weapon was, which was light bowgun, because it was a different ammo system. It was, different names for every type of ammo. Like the core mechanics were kind of there, but, the aiming wasn't quite as fluid. And after playing a bunch, like hundreds of hours of World and Rise, like I was telling myself, I was like, it's too hard. I can't go back to like after I've tasted like a competent like dual stick shooter like in the later games. I can't go back to like whatever janky FPS you could do on a 3DS or whatever. But like there was something in me that kind of like pushed me out of that comfort zone where it was like, it's too complicated. It's not intuitive. It's like I have to learn about how to manage inventory space, and it's not infinite like it is in the later games. You have a like finite number of slots to put all of your items in. And then at some point I just had to ask myself, I was like, okay, but why aren't you bothering to learn it? Like you liked it. Like you see the like number of quests that you completed with each weapon, and I played a lot before I played any of like Rise and World of this weapon, and I presumably liked it, and I still like it in later games. Like why can't I relearn the old janky way to play the game? And I went back, did some hunts, and it's fun as hell. It took a little bit of effort. It took time, like sitting down and being like, what the fuck is happening with these controls? Like, why doesn't it just work a little bit simpler? Or like, why did they obviously when you're looking at it with hindsight and you see what a like more polished, a more like intuitive control scheme is, like it can be incredibly frustrating to go back and like try to make do like with your habits. But like, I don't know, like I think Monster Hunter as a franchise has taught me a lot more patience with video games. And I think that I have a much higher tolerance or like pain threshold for unintuitive controls or, things that take, an extra sequence of menu diving or button clicks to like get in. And like, I was thinking a lot about in Tears of the Kingdom, how like, you have the menu system that you can hit the D-pad to like fuse items real quick. And like, I was seeing like somewhere else, another person say it's like, yeah, this is the worst part of Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm like, I didn't think it was that hard. Like, I really didn't find it to be a sticking point at all. And like, part of me is wondering if like, going into a game that is so menu divey or so like button press intensive for just doing kind of basic mechanics,
routine things,
like if like getting that to be muscle memory and like getting that to be a thing where it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing like 100 different things, like managing them in real time, because if I don't, there's no pause button. Like if there don't, I'm letting down the other people in this hunt in a multiplayer game. So pressure. I do just have to figure out, okay, what's the hotkey for this like crafting thing or this item, and like what's my sharpness at, like what's my ammo at, like how are my teammates doing on health? Do I have anything that I can heal them while I'm safe? Oh God, there's a monster coming at me. Then removing all of that and putting that into the context of another game where it's like, oh, I just have to press 3 more buttons? Yeah, that fucking's nothing. I'll do that in a second.
Did you have to manually map the hotkeys that you were talking about, or were they already presets?
So in the later games, those are all customizable. And so like there's a bunch of things where it's like, okay, you have a radial menu that is a separate like hotkey thing that you can assign and do that all. I honestly don't know how it works in GU, because in Rise and World I still don't use it a lot. I know that there's optimal ways to use it, and like the hotkeys, like, oh, this is like you want to minimize the number of like keystrokes basically, or like holding the ZL button. But like the thing with Frontier and GU specifically is that they don't have remappable controls. They just have options. So there are like 4 presets. Types of like presets that you can choose, and then you can do different combinations of those. So like a good amount of time, to be fair, of me getting back into light bowgun was doing a mission and just A-Bing every single option and being like, all right, what does type 2 feel like? Does this feel like more like World and Rise? Is like, no, it doesn't. This feels awful. Let's never touch this one ever again. Like,
so and sometimes that gets like cripplingly indecisive, at least for me. Or even when you can remap it fully, you're like, wait, do I like it here? And then I play a little bit more, and then I'm like, wait a second, do I want to flip that back? Or I just can't make up my mind sometimes.
So yeah, like it is a lot of like trying to find a sweet spot. And if you want to have a game that you can just pick up and play, it is not this. Like,
is it any Monster Hunter? For
I was just going to say,
right. But at least you don't have to do the claw hand to play the games anymore. But like there is something to playing a little bit more janky or unintuitive control scheme that like I kind of find more, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for
engaging
is.
In a sense.
It is kind of more engaging. It is like, in the same way that like I think we were talking about playing Metroidvanias and how it does feel like there is a like boilerplate standard where everyone kind of feels and controls the same and does it, and like it doesn't feel like there's a ton of innovation in the like control scheme. And if you deviate from the norms of like how a control scheme is, then like people complain because it's harder to play, or it's like it sticks out more. There's more friction to the experience. But like, I don't know. I was thinking a lot about also the I've been thinking a lot about games and controls and like how you interact with them as art, but like Outer Wilds, and when I started playing that game and the first thing you do is control a spacecraft, and I'm like, I'm never going to learn this. Like, this is too difficult. This is so many moving
I remember
parts.
that
like,
opening bit. Yep.
This is impossible to do. And then, 10 hours later, I'm like zipping around the solar system without as second nature. And I was like, like sometimes you just got to put some time in and
exactly.
learn
that's
it.
a good point. That's a good point. That's one thing. The first game that comes to mind for me, or the series, I guess, because I had played, I bought BioShock Infinite, had never played any of the BioShock games. I didn't love BioShock Infinite, but I enjoyed my time with it, particularly the combat and the rail flying and stuff like that. Just thought the movement and everything felt really cool. And I bought it on PS3. It came with BioShock 1. So I was like, I'm going to go back right after I finished Infinite. I was like, I'm going to go back to BioShock 1. But there were just enough of those little subtle differences and slightly more primitive control scheme in the original BioShock. And just a few things flipped around. We're like, that's how you use grenades or whatever in this, or that's how you use your secondary item. And it just especially going right from one to the other, I was like, I can't play this right now. And I'm but I'm kind of mad at myself that I never actually just dedicated the time to let me just learn the control scheme for the original BioShock, because people love that game. And even a lot of people are diehard fans of the second game too. Yeah, but you just got to dedicate to, hey, it's not the same, and I just got to learn how to play this one and then enjoy it in, the way that I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. But I'm going to keep playing Generations Ultimate for so long. Good God, there's so much content. I'm barely scratching the surface of that game, which is good because I'm not going to have anything that can play Wilds for another 5 years. Because
you don't think they should be able to handle it?
Yeah, it cannot.
No.
The PS5 can barely handle it.
Excuse me?
Oh my God!
Wilds is. They released the minimum specs for the PC version, and everyone is just we can't play this game.
Wow.
They'll have to figure out a way to make it release it on consoles and whatever.
You'd hope.
You'd think, because otherwise
it's this fidelity arms race.
But Switch 2, Nintendo does not follow a fidelity arms race ever, and you're going to tell me that Capcom is just going to decide not to launch potentially on that brand new platform because
they are.
I would say that for sure, because I don't think they're on any World or stuff like that is
correct,
not on
because there are two different Monster Hunter teams. There is the console team and the portable team, and Rise was technically a portable team release, which is why it came out on Switch, which was the whatchamacallit, not underperforming, but underpowered system.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Previous gen. Yeah.
World was not ever ported to Switch because it was a console release, and Wilds is the first console Monster Hunter since World.
To be fair, I wouldn't even want to see Switch try to run Monster Hunter World. So
I was gonna say Wilds look or
I know it's so confusing.
Rise looks great, but it is very much simpler and more stylized, I think, than World, where World and Wilds look way more realistic.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Also kind of suffer from it, in my own personal opinion, but that's neither here nor there.
Totally fair. Well, I guess to just jump over, if you're good there, to leave that there, John, I'm going to jump over to what I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to talk about that new Mario and Luigi game. And I guess before I get started, Mario and Luigi Brothership, that is, and before I just dive into it, where's everybody at on their Mario and Luigi? Because I've only really played Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and I've not beaten any of these. I've played maybe the first handful of hours of Mario Luigi Superstar Saga and Partners in Time on DS. And then there's been a bunch more since then. Even I looked it up, I didn't know, I totally forgot about that crossover Paper Mario game. I think it's Mario and Luigi Paper Jam on 3DS.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I totally forgot that came out. But they've done Bowser's Inside Story. There's another Luigi Dream Team or Mario and Luigi Dream Team. I think there's 4, 5, 6 games now at this point. But where are you guys at on the Mario and Luigi? I think we've talked about them even briefly on the podcast.
I've played, just being a huge Paper Mario fan, like historically the traditional Paper Marios, which I think we all have an affinity for those old titles. I played Superstar Saga was, immediately on my radar when that released. And I don't remember if I actually beat it or not, but I put a ton of time into it. I love that game and the visual style and the creativity and just the personality that game had. And then I did beat Partners in Time on DS back in that time period too. And Bowser's Inside Story, I don't know that I ever beat any of the versions that have come out, but I, again, put a lot of time into that. Paper Jam, I think, was the one with the sticker. No, that's Sticker Star. That's a whole separate thing. Yeah. So maybe not. I've dabbled in basically all of them except Dream Team and this brand new one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've beaten Superstar Saga several times. It's one of my favorite games.
Yeah, I remember you saying that before. Yeah,
I've beaten Partners in Time once, and then I've not beaten Bowser's Inside Story. So that's where I was at. I don't think I got Dream Team, which is interesting now that I think back on it, but.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Even when I saw that like Paper Jam game, I was like, I'm surprised I didn't just buy this. But I was like, I honestly don't even really remember it even coming out.
They didn't get as much fanfare in that 3DS era comparatively.
Yeah, and maybe the fact that it had the Paper Mario tie-in. Like I know a lot of people, I'm like mediocre on all those games, but I know a lot of people think that series has kind of gone downhill over time. So maybe it getting tied in.
Both series have kind of had diminishing returns over their like runs. They're all like good games, but I feel
no like bad entries from what I understand. But
Nintendo insists on putting new gimmicks in to justify releases every time.
Well, that, and it's also just kind of hard to recapture that energy of like the first time you like do something totally different with Mario and have like these turn-based games that are so packed with like personality and charm and dialogue and jokes
but like Randall said, they kind of just perfected it in Thousand Year Door because they didn't really change much between the original Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door. So those two titles are still great.
Yes, it's like an actual sequel. Yeah.
Yes, they hold up.
The original Superstar Saga, is such like a streamlined and polished game, and then they just kind of overcomplicated it over time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll say
tutorialized it also, but continue.
Yeah, well, I'll say for my opening, I've played about the first hour and 15 minutes or so of Mario and Luigi Brothership here. And I'll say, again, having not played the last, few releases in the series, this is like very much like, to me, feels like it's like recapturing that like energy, personality. Like I'm right off the bat, like I am so sucked into this game and the adventure and the sense of like, just again, the personality and energy of the game. Like I really love the like 3D cell shaded kind of look. And I think they've kind of leaned into this. Like at first I was like, oh, it's like a totally new art style. And then I was looking at the box art of the more recent releases and I was like, oh, this is like exactly how Mario and Luigi look on the box art. So I was like, maybe I'm just like, out of touch on these games and I'm just picturing them in pixel art form. But right off the bat, you get kind of like there's an opening cutscene. Mario and Luigi get like sucked into this vortex and get sucked into this new world. And then Mario lands on like this island, and then he's you got to explore your way around and find Luigi eventually, get reunited in typical any video game fashion. You got to, just get the game started off, I guess. But right off the bat, it kind of has almost like a little bit of like a Wind Waker vibe because you're like kind of sailing on the seas throughout the game.
And the cell shading.
Yeah, and the visual style too. And just like being on like all these islands and everything.
You've already convinced me to get it. Like it took so little to push me.
Yeah, I'm very
like you just had to say Wind Waker, and I was like,
Well, so again, so I'm just like opening up the game. Like I haven't even found. I know that there are going to be hammers in the game, but I haven't found the hammers yet. So I only have the ability to jump. But I will say, as much as like I've played about an hour, but it seems like it's pacing out things real nicely. Like it's still obviously tutorializing me, but it's doing it at a pretty good pace, especially for like Nintendo and an RPG. Like sometimes they can really lean into like, let me handhold you through this whole, opening section here, but it kind of like it'll, the first time it tells you to pause the game, it's like, all right, we're gonna do the whole plus thing now, and like tells you, it like kind of like leans into the humor. It's like, get real comfortable on this menu screen because you're gonna be coming back here for maps and items and whatever. They just like prepare you in a perfect way, and like again, just like the music is really nice. Like in the moments where the energy's higher for battles or whatever, it's obviously nice and energetic. Or even when you're like on the level up screen or whatever, it's like got that like game show like energy and vibe that the previous games have had. But at the same time, like when you're just like exploring the world or whatever, it's like real, just kind of serene, at least in this opening, like kind of beach setting that you're on. And then eventually when you reunite with Luigi, you find you end up on, he's like sailing on this ship that's floating by, and you're like, oh, he must have landed on this ship when we got sucked into the vortex. So Mario jumps on it, and it's called Ship Shape Island. And that's like essentially like your hub world. And then what you do at first, like the first island that you get to go to, you like get to go to this cannon. And again, like the humor is just great. Like the characters on the ship are like, hey, you got to help us rescue our world. We need your help. And they're just like, yeah, we wish there was a better way to get you over to these islands, but yeah, we just got to blast you through these cannons. There's just no other way. And like, they're just like, they're doing their typical like trying to argue their way out of it. And it's still like just as charming as ever. It sounds different because it's not Charles Martinet anymore doing the voices, I don't think, for Mario and Luigi, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's no longer in that position. So, but it's still like it has that same level of charm. And then even like the little touches of like, so they have a thing called like Luigi logic in the game where like he'll just randomly like be struck with like a moment of like, oh, I know how to like solve this puzzle, and you just like press L and it'll like trigger this little cutscene, like, but it's like almost like comic booky or something, like where like, or graphic novel, like Luigi will like pop up in the center of the screen as like a big like, just stylized like version of himself, like realizing what's happening and like having the realization come to him, and then it like goes back to the game in the background. Like it's just all the little touches like that. The game is just like oozing with energy. And then so again, to go to the first island, you jump in the cannon, launches you there, and you got to just like light the lighthouse on the island, and basically you're just trying to reconnect all the islands again. Like they used to be all connected Pangea style, and they blew apart due to some whatever evil thing happened, and then you got to reconnect them again. But like right off the bat, you go to this first island, but there's clearly like I saw all these hammer switches that I can hit, but I quote unquote like kind of cleared that island and reconnected it, and now it's linked to the ship and I can travel there anytime I want. But otherwise, when you need to discover new islands, like I just got to a point in the game where you have to go back to like the ocean map, and then it's like kind of like a top-down 2D perspective, but there are actually like ocean currents that you have to like travel within.
Nice.
And you have to like select them, and then your ship is just going to get automatically like pulled into whatever, new current you select, and then you can keep moving your way around. But like because of that, you're not able to just like, at first when I was able to just target the first island and blast at it, I was like, okay, they're just going to, as the game goes on, I'm just going to add more islands along this 360 radius that I have, or 360 degree aiming that I have with this. It's not full 360 actually, but whatever. I was just like assuming more levels are just going to pop up on the horizon over time throughout the game, and just that's how you unlock them. But I was like, no, this is like almost forcing you in a way, like you have to go to the ones that are on your path, I guess. So like with the way that I tend to play like games in general, but RPGs especially, like I tend to never finish them because I'm trying to talk to every character, or I'm trying to see everything, or like clear the island fully. But in this case, I was like, before I move on to the next level or whatever, but in this case, I'm like, I don't even have the hammer yet, so I know I can't do half the stuff on this island. I know I'm going to have to come back. And then on top of that, like after that, it gave me the choice to go to one of two places. And I'm like, I actually thought I was going to go to the one place because it just sounded a little more appealing, like the just style of the land or the name of it, or there were two different characters too, and the one had an item that sounded more appealing to me. So I was like, I'm going to go there instead. But then like the current pulled me towards the other one instead, or I missed my chance to shoot myself towards it. So I was like, you know what? I guess I'm just going to go explore this other one because I don't want to wait for it to come all the way back around.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like helping me with my crippling indecisiveness when I'm playing the game. So like, but again, the combat so far, like it actually like every move is, so if Mario and Luigi are both alive, when you go, at least for the jump, you go and do your jump before you rescue Luigi, you just do like your regular, okay, Mario jumps, you press A at the perfect time, he jumps again, and you do like a little double jump on the enemy. But now if Luigi's alive and they're, teamed up, you do the jump, and then Mario bounces off the enemy and then kind of jumps back towards Luigi. Luigi runs up towards Mario and almost like sets him like a volleyball.
Yep.
Nice.
And then Mario then comes back down and slams down. Maybe they've done this in more recent games, but that's just like the standard attack, basically.
Nice.
And then I haven't gotten any of like the, I forget if they're like brothers attacks, the BP.
bros attacks, yeah. And you need bros
they
to
use the same
BP.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought it was like button points or something, or badge points, but maybe I'm just mixing up all the different games. But nonetheless, like the stuff I saw in the trailer, that was actually honestly what really sold me, was like all the different bro attacks that I saw just looked so stylized and energetic, and like again, just being able to dodge the attacks. And then they did, I think we talked about this briefly like before the game came out, just in like conversation, not on the podcast proper or anything, but like talking about how like it was like a cool feature, but like kind of like annoying, or it could get tedious, like especially in like Partners in Time where you're having to jump for all 4 characters, each with their own designated face button, like especially in the overworld. In this game, you do have those designated face buttons, but like, for example, if you like run over and you jump and clear a gap with Mario, like Luigi will just automatically jump behind you and clear that gap. And it just makes it like a little more relaxing, at least for me. Like the way I'm playing games these days, it's like I don't want to like climb up some mountain and just whiff a jump by a little bit. Oh, I gotta climb all the way back to the top. Like I just don't have the patience for that anymore. So it's nice. And then even little touches like the characters like within like the or like the towns or whatever, the people that you can talk to, the ones, they'll have like a little speech bubble above their head if it's like someone you can actually, that's going to give you a quest or give you any kind of thing important, and then you can talk to the other people if you want. But like I'm thankfully, again, I'm like just trying to limit myself. Okay, I don't need to talk to every person, even though the dialogue is good and I'm getting some some laughs and some smiles out of what they got on display with the interactions. I think it's all really well done. Even like the sound effects for like it's not quite as pronounced as like Banjo-Kazooie, but like the text box like dialogue sounds are really nice. For each character has like their own kind of sound.
Nice.
But yeah, I've just been, it was like the first time in a while that I've been like, man, I need to get this like AAA Nintendo game, like not day one, but I got it pretty shortly after it came out, and then pretty quickly popped it in. Like usually I just like have it, put it on my shelf, don't unwrap it for a while, then pop it in just to look at the title screen and admire it, which again, on the title screen, the water in this game looks fucking amazing. But especially in certain like sometimes it looks better than others, but like the way, and it's so cool because like when you're on the ship or when you're on any of these islands, like you're constantly moving and like seeing like islands passing by in the distance, even when you're just like on a regular like island. It's just so cool. It's such an awesome game. Like I'm like I said, only a little over an hour in, and who knows if I'll actually finish it because that's just my style. But this does seem like one that like the adventure, the scale, the scope, everything feels like kind of right up my alley, that I can see myself getting pulled into this one and seeing it through. And I really hope that I do, because it seems like they put a lot of love into this game, and it's really cool to see, because a lot of the Mario RPGs, whether it's Paper Mario or even Randall, you talked about that Super Mario RPG remake being a little bit of like a, not bust, but like maybe not enough of a remake. Yeah,
underwhelming. Exactly. Yep.
So like, yeah, it's just kind of a mixed bag. So it's kind of cool to be like, oh man, my excitement didn't steer me wrong this time, where I've been burned by a couple Nintendo games or one, the games that didn't click with me like I hoped they would.
Yeah, that's big time for you to get hooked in like that on a more mainstream Nintendo thing. It's been a minute.
Yeah, and especially on one that I know is going to take me, 20, 30 some hours probably to see my way through. So,
yep.
But yeah, I'll leave it there on that for now. And if I continue chipping away at it, I'll definitely update it if there's anything worthwhile, because at least once I get those hammers, I'll update on that. But yeah, why don't I kick it back over to John here to wrap things up for a little kind of old school game talk, I think.
Yeah. So I'm going to start real old school and talk about Old School Runescape, the mobile version of the PC free-to-play MMORPG that apparently started in 1999, so its 25th anniversary was this year.
Bonkers.
Which is crazy.
We're talking about like the best connections during that time being like dial up or maybe DS. I had DSL
which
right
I
around
think is
that time.
One of the reasons why like it is so scalable and runs so well on
That's a good point.
Mobile, which is how I'm playing it. Like I didn't realize until like a few days ago that it was they made a mobile port of RuneScape called Old School RuneScape because they've come out with multiple sequels that I've never played, but this version on mobile is just the original RuneScape. That is a lot of point and click. Like you create a character and you learn skills and you use those skills to mine and blacksmith and cut down tree. One of the core skills that I remembered at the very beginning was fire making, because when you cut down a tree, you got to use that lumber for something. So you use that lumber to build a fire and then you cook shrimp on it. And like, it's just that tried and true formula of MMORPGs or like skill crafting based games, like at its most basic form and probably one of the earliest, but in a way that is like kind of so bare bones as to be refreshing now.
Yeah.
I think I remember when it first came out, like that, you know, all of those systems just seemed overwhelming, but now they are so quaint that like it's really kind of it is interesting because in a way, like a lot of the skills, like you will start cutting down a tree and based on your skill level, it'll just take you a longer amount of time if you have a lower skill thing. So it kind of feels like an idle game at times where it's like, all right, I'm just going to put my character right next to this fishing spot, click fish and let it go for like a minute and see how many fish I can catch. Or like once my inventory fills up, then I'll go cook them and then I'll sell them. And then I will repeat this process forever. And there's like, honestly, not a lot else to the game. Like the combat is you click on an enemy and then you automatically do attacks and then the enemy automatically does attacks back, and whichever one is stronger will make those HP go down faster.
Right.
Like it is like very interesting to see how like not like I don't want to use the word primitive because like I think it's very impressive for especially when it came out and even now to be able to like basically port it identically to a mobile platform is just
so cool,
mind-boggling to me. Like I'm playing it and I'm like, yes, this is exactly how it felt to play when I played it probably 20 years ago, like, which is again in itself absurd. Like, so I don't know. It was a great little blast from the past and like kind of an interesting like time capsule to see is like, yep, all of these systems kind of got exploded out and like became their own like management sims or crafting game genres, like everything.
Well, even to go from like Monster Hunter, playing like all the Monster Hunter games to playing that, it's like to go from the primitive beginnings of what, you know, that type of game has grown into.
Quaint was the perfect word to use for it, but not in any sort of negative or downplay sense. Yeah. It's just like such a distillation of what it is. And it's just like very innocent, I feel like. It's just from that time
at this point.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes, both innocent and endearing because like in a way that playing like a mobile idle game kind of feels like predatory at times or just gross. Like doing this feels like so like charming and like devoid, like even they'll still has like, hey, there's a membership you can buy to unlock that, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm just gonna click on a little fishing icon and fish. That's
what most people did then, you know, even so that's the experience.
So
that's awesome.
I haven't played that a ton, but you know, it was more of just like, oh my God, I just I opened my phone to like look at it's Jagex is the game developer, And the name is derived from the company's original slogan, Java Gaming Experts.
Yeah, baby.
Holy shit. Love
That
it.
rules.
Tells you everything you need to know, baby.
That's incredible. Anyway, so then the other game, which is, I guess, slightly newer. Actually, God, yeah. Thinking in terms of like how games changed from 1999 to 2006, which is when the original .hack GU game came out. So I've been playing .hack GU Last Recode, which came out in 2017, which is when the game takes place in the real world in this techno future. And the .hack GU series was a game series that I never played when it came out because I didn't have a PlayStation 2.
I was going to say, I remember those being PlayStation games. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. And like I was fully a Nintendo kid at that point.
Yep.
And like, there wasn't super huge into JRPGs because, the only JRPGs I had access to were like Breath of Fire 2 and Tales of Symphonia.
Yep.
So going back to play this anthology game, which is a collection of the original .hack series, GU series, because it's this whole media franchise IP of what became... I don't know when this falls in the like genre space of, oh, here's a fictional MMORPG or another world that your character is in the game is playing this game. So it's a single player game, but the setting is a fictional MMORPG. And the thing that I think is really impressive, even though it's more impressive conceptually than it is in execution, is when you boot up the game, you have a fictional operating system and you have to select the game that actually play in the game itself.
You gotta launch
can also go to these message boards where people are talking about the game, and you can go to a website that has all the news that's happening, and it has these animated movie clips of like newsreels where it's like, are video games too violent? Are they making our children violent? And like things that like we were actually talking about in that time, but like through this weird fictional lens, and like it's really ambitious in a way that like,
yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
It does.
But and then you get to the gameplay, and then it's also just like a dungeon crawler, and like doesn't have too much going on there. It's like, but even that has like this really interesting procedural generation thing where you get keywords that you have. Every world that you or dungeon that you do has 3 words, and you get more words as you unlock more dungeons, and each word will it changes the setting of it, or it changes the enemies that are in that, or it changes like the environments that are in the dungeon. So like they're all kind of randomized within this like set parameters. So like this game is doing a lot of like really interesting stuff that like I'm sure that if I played it when it came out, I would have been a little freak about, like, and would have been like, this is actually the greatest game
brilliant
ever made. You just don't understand. But like, it really is impressive to like see something that has like such a clear vision that's kind of beyond its own ability to execute. Like, I think it does a lot of cool things. I don't necessarily think it lands them all particularly well. And like, this is also not me like giving an endorsement as like, you got to play this series and see this. Like, I feel like you kind of get what it's doing just by explaining it or reading it. Like reading these, I've been trying to do my due diligence and like read every article that's in there. And they're like, really, just the most generic like news articles of like, a new thing was released. Its price point is $420, which seems expensive and it's like talking about like basically VR headsets that people are playing video games in real life. And it's like, all right, this isn't like a groundbreaking story or like super well executed,
like interesting commentary or anything. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I'm like, I do got to respect it though. This is just kind of
it sounds like it's doing a lot. It sounds like it's doing something cool and something different from like your typical JRPG, because a lot of them are kind of cookie cutter of like, oh, it's just this is our take on Final Fantasy style.
Yeah, well, let's walk to a new village and like talk to the person here, save that village, move on to the next one. Like having it be in its own framework of its own genre. Where it's like, this is an RPG about RPGs.
That is cool. I do like when a game can, like, not always, it can fall flat sometimes, but when they lean into like the meta, you know, fourth wall breaking stuff or whatever it might be, I do kind of like that stuff sometimes.
Yeah, just willing to try something different too.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Heck yeah. You've been playing that on Steam Deck, I assume?
I have. And I've just been playing the first one because I do want to play them in order, but who knows how many I'll get through because already I'm like, this is a lot of doing the same dungeons over and over again.
Yep, definitely got to take some breaks in between those at least.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know, anything else before we wrap things up on the video game talk here tonight, guys?
No, sir.
Nope.
All right, nice. Well, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com and pretty much anywhere else you can think of on the internet. And other than RuneScape, maybe. But other than that, we will catch you next week. And until then, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Last thing. New Freddie Gibbs album is really good. I can't remember if I said that or not.
Oh.
Last time we recorded. But
unaware of that release.
He dropped it like kind of out of nowhere. Last time we got together and gamed with like the boss fight guys, Glenn was like, "Oh, Freddie Gibbs is like putting an album out like today, or tomorrow night or something." I forget what it was, but it was like on Halloween. He put it out.
Nice.
It's like it has like a couple little like sketches in it that are cheesy. Sure. Like they're not even like sketches, but they're like since it came out on Halloween, it's like there's like these. Yeah, I guess they're like sketches kind of, or like it's like the devil talking to Freddie Gibbs, and it's just like, man, it feels like so dated kind of. I'm like,
he's of that era.
Get these fucking rap sketches out of here. I don't want to hear a fucking skit in the middle of my album. Outcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Outcast is probably the worst offender.
Yeah, they're like that. Without a doubt. But like, even like, honestly, I like went back and listened to some of the old Kanye, and even those first two albums are like littered with them. I was like, man, I forgot about this. And like,
it's
even some of them, like, they're fun.
Thing. Like,
I know, like, they're funny the first time, honestly, or like not all of them, obviously, but like some of those Kanye ones, I remember the first time I heard them, I was like, oh, this is kind of like, it got a chuckle out of me. But like, then I don't get how you write that and then record it and like continuously think like, this is a great idea to put this, to open up the album with this skit. This is a great idea. Like, I would think like after enough time of hearing it, you'd be like, you know what? Let's cut that. Let's right. It's an inside joke. It's not really that funny. Or
that's 100%. Like, or like an improvised scene, or like you're just fucking around in the like studio and you happen to record it. Like,
yeah, like,
it feels like like a holdover from that era.
Yeah. Big time. And it's just, this Freddie one, like the devil comes, he's like, well, what the fuck you doing, Freddie? Well, you gotta keep living like this. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? What era am I living in? But other than that, like, it's pretty good. And of course, Freddie's like always gonna say some stupid shit where you're like, come on, Freddie.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's gonna be some of that.
Don't be so ignorant.
You're gonna get some toxicity in there. That's for sure. Yeah.
It's sad that you just got to deal with it in hip hop a little.
No, that's kind of good timing, though. Like, ever since like that whole whoever owns MF Doom's remains at this point has been putting all kinds of things out, but that did like say, oh yeah. So I've been like kind of back into an MF Doom super mode that way. Not that I ever fully left it in the first place, but yeah.